The downfall of your enemies is that there is levels to their downfall. Because what's happened is when they did what they did to you and they hurt you and they stumped you in the dirt, they left you for dead, and they walked away, they started leveling up in life. They started to go up different levels, right? Because they had at the time temporarily got away with what they had did to you. And sorry, my hand. They were getting away with what they had did to you, and they were going up these different levels. But it was intended for that to happen so that God can test their heart and test their good conscience. Like, even though you know what you've done to that person, to you, it's like, even though your enemies knew what they did to you, and even if they, because pretty much it was at a point where it was like, they know what they did to you, you know what they did to you, and God knows what they did to you. So as they were leveling up in life, they're sitting here thinking that because they were not reprimanded for what they have done, they had not faced any consequences yet for what they have done. They basically felt as if nothing has happened to them yet, that they thought they just got away with it. Was testing to see if they had a guilty conscience, meaning that although nothing has come for them yet for what they have done, are they even thinking about what they have done? Like, as they are leveling up in life, and the reasons to why God leveled them up in life was because the downfall was going to be greater, because they racked up so much karma that the way that it was going to hit them harder was for them to reach a certain level so that they can come all the way back down because of the fall. Because pride comes before the fall, pride comes before destruction. They had to get up to a certain level, and if you're still trying to hide from your shadows and turn your back on the horrific things that you have done to other people in your past, that other people are affected by, that it has impacted their life, and for years this has impacted their life, where it's like, as you're leveling up, are you at any point in time reflecting on what you have done? Where if I'm giving you opportunities to grow and advance in your life, where your external world can change, is there going to be any internal growth within you? It was testing their heart, testing their conscience. So what's happening is their downfall, there's levels to their downfall. It's like with each level, it's like they went down back down a level. And the way that these levels are going down is where the first, like, they're being knocked off of their pedestal, they're being knocked down a notch, but it's like they're going in levels on down. And the first part of it was the exposure, where first your enemies were exposed for the horrific things that they have done in the past to you and to other people. They are being exposed for their true colors, for how they truly treat people behind closed doors. Because a person's true character is shown by, one, how he treats others that can do nothing for him, no scratch confirmation, or by the actions of a man behind closed doors when no one is watching. That really truly tests the character of a person. So out in public, out in front of everybody else, they're a certain way. But if this is how they're behaving behind closed doors, that is truly showing your true horrific character. So the exposure had to come first, where everyone sees that your enemies, they are not what they seem. They are not these holier than thou religious folks. They are not these just saints. They are not just these wonderful, great, pure-hearted, humble, kind-hearted people that they portray themselves to be or want to be perceived as, and how they play the role as. That's not who they truly are. All of that is a facade. So that was the first step to their exposure. That was the first level, was the exposure. For people to see them for who they truly are, their true colors, and that everything else that they do is just surface level, because beneath the surface, the depths of their character, they lack moral standing, they lack moral character. And that for people to see that these people that other people think so high, like your enemies, other people think so highly of your enemies, but when they were exposed, now they're seeing what your enemies are truly capable of. It is causing others to see these enemies of yours differently. They see them for who they truly are, not who your enemies portray themselves to be. That was the first step. And also for them to be exposed for what they have done. It's like, oh, you did this to that person? You said that about that person? You went out of your way to treat this person that way? When this person didn't even deserve that? That's the type of behavior that you have? Exposure. The next level to their downfall is for them to be held accountable for their actions. Now, although, and hear me when I say this, it's not, even if they themselves are not holding themselves accountable for their actions, they are still being held accountable by a third party, by another authority figure, by someone else that they have respect for and regards for. There is another third party that is holding them accountable for their actions, and they were finally reprimanded for it. It's like, even though you yourself may not be willing to admit what you have done, you still need to think about what you have done, because your actions caused a reaction. And now that reaction is coming back to bite you in the ass. Even if it's coming back to bite you years later, it's still coming back to bite you, because you have to be held accountable for your actions. You can lie all you want and deflect all you want, but you're still being held accountable. It's like surviving R. Kelly. It's like the Bill Cosby, case. Years later, all this stuff is coming out. It's Yolanda Saldivar is still denying and still lying about what she's done when everyone knows she murdered Selena, but she's still held accountable, right? Even though she's still held accountable in prison, even though she doesn't admit it, she is still held accountable, right? Yeah. So the next level of them being held accountable is where they now are forced to look at themselves. They are forced to look in the mirror. They are forced to reflect back on their actions that they took against you and others. They are forced to look at it. They tried to hide from it all the time. They tried to turn their face and not look at it, but now they're being forced to look at it. They're being forced to see it, because they couldn't run from themselves any longer. So now that an authority figure, a third party is holding them accountable, now they're forced to reflect on what they have done and reflect on the action that they've taken and reflecting on why they did what they did, why they went out of their way to cause harm to an innocent person. A third level is where they are losing out on their allies. Certain allies that they had before that trusted them, those allies are now falling away because they see the true colors of your enemies. And now they're like, I no longer support you because I don't support what you have done to others. And I can no longer support a person that is a horrible person to other people. They have lost their allies, and they were stronger in numbers. Now they are forced to stand alone and to see really how strong they really are if they don't have an entourage or group of people backing them up. How strong are you now when you have to stand alone? The next level is the psychological torment in their mind, because they are dealing with the intrusive thoughts of their past and what they have done, and that guilt is just eating away at them. Now they can no longer escape or run from what they have done because it is clouding and plaguing their mind.